What is going on, everybody? Welcome back. Cold Symmetry just did a developer question and answer session ahead of Mortal Shell 2, and they answered a lot more than I expected. 5 people from the studio turned up, including both founders, and one of those answers genuinely changes how you should read every single beta impression you have seen. There is also a warning in here that could cost you every achievement in the game if you miss it. The game launches next Thursday, the 20th. Early access for Devout Edition owners opens on Monday, so this is all timely. Let us go through what they actually confirmed. Let us start with the big one. Somebody asked about difficulty. Andrew is one of the studio founders, and his answer reframes everything. He said the beta was tuned to be a bit easier than the retail game, and he said it also featured the least difficult area in the whole game. You read that again if you need to. Every person who played that beta and said it felt too easy was playing a deliberately softened version of the gentlest part of the game. He went further as well. The team has made thousands of adjustments since the beta, and difficulty is where they put the most effort. His words were that you will very likely feel a spike compared to the beta area, so if you were worried this had gone soft, that concern looks misplaced. So what else changed between that beta and the version you will actually buy? Andrew confirmed a specific list. The trials and the dialogue window have both been fixed. Stun locking should be noticeably toned down, and he explained how. The stagger damage Tarstone has been changed for release, and many enemies now have greater stagger resistance. That was one of the most common complaints from beta players, so it is good to see it named directly rather than waved away. Vitaly is the other founder, and he added something useful here. The team watched countless streams of people playing the beta and took notes on what frustrated them. He specifically called out the poison visual effect early in the game as one of the things they fixed. Because of that, he also listed what they were watching for: bugs and balancing issues, plus visibility problems and general quality of life fixes. On crashes, I appreciated how straight the answer was. They have addressed many of them for the full release, but Andrew did not pretend the problem is solved. He pointed out that a lot of the beta crashes were graphics card crashes. They were caused by outdated drivers or by invalid configuration choices like certain upscaling settings. So he is asking people to check threads for their specific hardware. He also asked players to actually send the crash reports because that is how the team tracks down the ones affecting the most people. And he pointed at their Discord support team for anything stubborn. That is a much more useful answer than promising everything is fine. Here is something practical you can act on. They are working to patch the game before the 17th. The reason is specifically so that when Preload goes live, players do not have to download the whole thing twice. That is a genuinely considerate bit of planning, and I wish more studios did it. Shortly after that, they plan to open an Opti and branch on Steam, carrying the following patch. That is for players who want to test it early. So if you like being on the bleeding edge, that option is coming. And remember the timings here. Devout Edition owners get in on Monday the 17th. Standard Edition downloads unlock on the 18th, with the full launch on the 20th. Now this one is a genuine warning, and it is the reason I wanted to make this video. There is an item called the Slayer Seal. It is effectively the game's easier mode, and you find it in the hub. Somebody asked whether the game warns you before you equip it. Andrew confirmed that yes, you now get multiple warnings, but here's the part that matters. Unlike the demo version, the Slayer Seal now locks all achievements on that save file. Not just some of them, all of them. So if you care about achievements, finish them before you switch, or make a completely separate save file for a Slayer playthrough. That is exactly the kind of thing you find out too late. The seal has also been upgraded since the demo and now grants a Slayer punch ability. The flip side of that is for people who want more punishment, not less. Andrew confirmed that night mode can be unlocked very early in the game, so you do not have to finish a playthrough before the harder option opens up. He also mentioned that certain shells, weapons, and items can alter how the game plays in very significant ways, and then he gave the most honest piece of advice in the whole session. If you want a challenging experience, do not cheese the game and do not farm gloom, which is a polite way of saying the difficulty is partly in your own hands. A lot of people who complain a game is too easy have quietly optimized the fun out of it themselves. For the handheld crowd, somebody asked whether it will be Steam Deck verified. The answer came back from their console department, and it is a qualified one. The expectation is partial rather than fully verified, and the reason is the small text checks. They believe everything else needed for deck certification is covered. A later edit on that answer said the team is already sitting at partial status, and this ties into something else Andrew said. They have been going through all of the interface addressing small text. It will be better on day one than it was in the demo, and they plan to keep improving it after launch. So full verification is not off the table. It just is not happening on Thursday. There was one more technical answer worth flagging. Somebody asked about a graphics feature, and Vitaly said a lot of it depends on NVIDIA. The studio has been talking to them about it, and he is hoping it can still happen at some point after launch. So that is a maybe rather than a promise. On the design side, Vitaly cleared up something I think a lot of people have wrong. The shells are not cosmetic armor sets. Each one operates as a unique standalone character with its own skill tree, which gives them a distinct class feel. So picking a shell is closer to picking a class than picking an outfit. That sits on top of everything else you are customizing. You have melee weapons and ranged sidearms, plus seals, and in his words, many tar stones to equip based on your build. Put together, that is a considerably deeper build system than the first game had. It explains why they keep talking about there being no single best way to play. There was also a really interesting answer about how they approached the sequel. Andrew said they did not take a same but bigger approach. They consider Mortal Shell 2 a different game that happens to take place in the same universe. Mechanics have been reworked and reprised and in places rebuilt from the ground up, and he was upfront that this is more work and riskier, with no guarantee that people prefer the new over the familiar. Vitaly framed the scope problem too. The first game was a low-budget debut. For this one, they needed enough variety that the game still holds up, whether you have been playing for 10 hours or 50. That is a design target rather than a stated length, but it does tell you what they were building for. Andrew also listed what the team learned from the first game and carried into this one. Bring player feedback in early through regular play tests. Test level layouts while they are still gray boxes. Test enemies while they are still proxy models. Give the player a better read on the world and clearer sense of direction, and allow enough agency that there is not just one best way to play. Then he added the blunt ones. He wanted more bosses and more weapon archetypes, plus better exploration and a bigger budget. A couple of smaller things worth knowing. Somebody asked about the relationship between the Harbinger and the Foundling. Vitaly refused to spoil it, saying some things are kept deliberately ambiguous, but he did give up one detail. They are the same species, so make of that what you will. On themes, Andrew said the first game was about finding purpose through overcoming adversity. This one is about choosing your own purpose and breaking free from unhealthy loops. And on the future, both founders said roughly the same thing. They have ideas for more shells and ideas for games beyond this universe entirely. Nothing announced, but they are clearly not done. And if you are wondering which shells the art director favors himself, he named Aerodrim and Smirt. So that is what Cold Symmetry actually confirmed. The headline for me is still that difficulty answer. If the beta was the easiest area and tuned down on top of that, the sample was wrong. A lot of the takes floating around right now are built on it. Second is the Slayer seal locking every achievement, because that one will catch people out. I have got a full Before You Buy landing tomorrow with my actual verdict. So subscribe and turn on notifications if you want that before launch. Now tell me down in the comments, does knowing the beta was the easy part make you more excited or more nervous? And are you jumping in Monday on early access or waiting for Thursday? Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.